Who would you rather see brought up first, Cade Horton or Matt Shaw? We're going to talk about it, and I'm going to give you my opinion here in the Cubs Ivy. Like, subscribe, comment, go Cubs. So the Chicago Cubs are in an interesting position. They've got two of their top prospects, Matt Shaw and Cade Horton, inching closer and closer to being ready. And the third base performance, especially on the offensive side, tends to be mediocre, continues to be mediocre. And the injury with Imanaga is kind of potentially forcing the Cubs' hand of talking about Cade Horton sooner than later. Want to talk about which one? Which one would you choose right now to move up and win? I said right now, but realistically, what time frame would you move? Do you move a Matt Shaw, or do you move a third baseman who's projected to be your third baseman of the future, or do you go with Cade Horton, who's supposed to be a dominant starter, um, moving up from the minors and potentially not necessarily when you wanted to due to Imanaga's return? Let's go. I want to answer those questions. Let's go through each player individually and kind of where the Cubs are right now. The Cubs are in a good spot right now. The offense is continuing to produce. They just spanked the San Francisco Giants, who are also a pretty good team. Um, Offense is making it up for what we may potentially be losing in depth and pitching. So let's go through each one, right? All right, Matt Shaw. Okay, Matt Shaw obviously started out on the starting roster, 40-man roster for the Cubs, and big league roster for the Cubs this season. And third base, I feel like he held it down pretty well and looked like a positive contributor on the defensive side. But on the offensive side, he struggled. He looked like in my opinion, he looked like he was overwhelmed and just couldn't figure out the timing. For me, his awkward approach to the ball started looking like pitcher started just running the ball inside and not getting his hands extended, and he couldn't. He just kept getting jammed quite a bit. Just my take on it. But the Chicago Cubs sent him down to kind of figure things out and get right before bringing him back up. And in the meantime, his replacements, John Birdie, Lopez, Brujan, and Turner. Birdie's got a 278 average with 60 plate appearances. Lopez is batting below 100, 18 plate appearances. Brujan's a 222 batting average with 9 plate appearances. And Turner, 58 plate appearances, so just about the same amount as Birdie with a 167 batting average. Nobody's nobody's a standout right now. And to be honest, a couple of them have made some mistakes on at third base. Birdie one that I would argue cost him the game because an error, excuse me, an error let a runner on that led to a big home run. I can't remember which opponent that was, but that led to the game-winning run scoring. So my opinion right now is, what looks like the Cubs are doing is Birdie's got the role, and they're spot starting Lopez, who I think's had some quality at bats, and he bats from the left side, so when a righty's in the mound, and if he's not really a big downgrade on defensively from anybody, so let him have a few swings from that left side. He's been around the MLB and has some live at bats and has a library of at bats, so maybe give him a few more chances. But Brujan looks like he's a spot guy, maybe later in games, whether we're up or down. And my opinion right now, Turner looks like a guy who's not necessarily been demoted, but he's not going to have that rotation with Michael Busch, which he shouldn't, because Michael Busch has been fairly hot at first base. And with that bat, Turner really doesn't provide an upgrade, more so just maybe a day off for Busch to keep him fresh. So for Matt Shaw in Iowa, the last 10 days, Matt Shaw's got 40 plate appearances, 12 hits, 1 home run, 2 stolen bases, two doubles and 4 RBIs with a batting average of 353 and an OPS of 979. I think that OPS is an important number. Um, Seems to be a kind of a marker, and if able to do a 979 and up in the in the show, we'd all be if he was able to start out that way, we'd all be having a different discussion, and we'd probably be even more of a potent offense from a league standpoint, even though we are number one right now. Um, that's so Matt Shaw's strong progress, right? The batting average is up, OPS is up. I think his hard hit rate is not necessarily skyrocketing, but it is improving, and that's only the last 10 days and 40 plate appearances, but trending the correct way. Okay. Um, right now, Cade Horton, last 30 days, last month, he's had. Okay, so in Cade's shoes, the reason why we're talking about Cade Horton, he's been talked about quite a bit, and when's he coming up? When's he coming up? But his name is, a buzzword right now because Shota Imanaga um, pulled up a couple of games ago on that play at first base, trying to make it to first to be able to turn that double play, and obviously pulled or tore or did something with his hamstring. I think is the word they're using, hamstring. And the Cubs already put him on the 15-day IL, so he's already out a few weeks. And I'm not sure they actually have a definitive timeline or definitive um, what actually is the issue. I know he's feeling the better the next day, but he's obviously not making quick movements or any kind of sprints. So of course, it feels a lot better than in the moment. But he's going to be out for a while. And right now, Cade Horton's name's coming up because he's been the man right now in Iowa as far as on the mound. He's got in the last 30 days, he's got 25.2 innings, only given up 11 hits, 4 earned runs, 9 walks, 27 strikeouts, and his ERA is 1.4 with a .78 WHIP. 25 innings, 27 strikeouts. He's obviously got some nasty stuff, and his command's obviously been there. If you've watched him pitch, he looks like a dominant guy. And I think the question with Cade is how many innings he actually has. He went through an injury last year, and so this year he's not put in. Maybe he's put in a full spring training at this point, equivalent to some of the guys that start the season on the MLB roster. But it seems like when asked the questions, Counsell and some of the Cubs front office just kind of downplay it and say, he'll be ready when he's ready. We'll pull him up. We're going to use our depth. They do talk about depth a lot. So the pitching depth that they've tried to bring in. So it doesn't sound like, and then the same thing. It doesn't sound like with Cade Horton, they're going to committing to rush to bring him up, and the same thing for Matt Shaw. Everybody downplays it. When I ask Jed and Craig, I heard them both say in separate interviews, basically that we're keeping an eye on Matt Shaw. Looks like he's progressing, but there's no line he has to cross. There's no goal he has to achieve. It's just kind of feeling it out. And we all talk about it at our round tables and watch his at bats. And, we expect him to be up here sooner than later and be a part of the solution. So you got both players, Matt Shaw and Cade Horton, that seem to be progressing the right way, seem to be in a spot where the Cubs don't want to rush. However, third base can't be a hole forever. And with Imanaga on that 15-day IL and Assad's on the 60-day, and he's probably a couple months away from being able to just throw, given that re-aggravating that oblique strain. You've got pressure. Cubs probably feel quite a bit of pressure internally to bring one or both up sooner than they expect. So this episode's about, by the way, help support, like, subscribe, comment before I get going on who they should bring up first. Tell me what you think. Should it be Matt Shaw? Cade Horton develops and we use our our stacked arms in the bullpen and some of the long relievers, and move one of them to, which we'll talk about in a second, move one of them to a starting role, or and bring up Matt Shaw, let him have another shot, or is it, hey, keep letting Matt Shaw develop, let Birdie, Lopez, Brujan, and Turner kind of hold down third until he's ready, and give Cade Horton a shot. Would you rather? Which one would you rather? Let me know in the comments. Um, so here's my opinion. Here we go. My opinion, Cade Horton should be brought up before Matt Shaw. I think with the offense we have, couple reasons. First one being for Matt Shaw staying down longer. I think Matt Shaw needs more time in Iowa. I think he needs more at bats. I think he needs to start mashing, getting that hit, getting the exit velocity, and hit the ball hard, hitting for average. Show me a few more gappers, doubles, triples, home runs, what you're capable of before we pull you up. Because that second half of the season, he's going to be playing an important role, and we need to predict any big changes we're going to make at third. We're going to hand the reins over to somebody. That's got to be someone who can produce. And no more what ifs, no more. Let's try this, let's try that. Matt Shaw needs to be the guy, and when he's given another opportunity, he's got to be ready. So I think the Cubs need to wait on Matt Shaw. Cade Horton, on the other hand, I do agree that he shouldn't come up now and just expect to be a starter for the rest of the season. I don't think that um, wear and tear on his body and arm, I don't think he's ready for that. Being off most of last season and just having basically a spring training so far, um, he hasn't proven to the Cubs that he can maintain for a long time. However, here's my prediction. Here's what should happen. There's no way with that soft tissue injury that Imanaga has. They put him on the 15-day IL. That's just to buy some time, right? That's the worst case scenario, so they can start making some moves. Because they know he's not, with that injury, he's not going to pitch in the next couple starts. So here's what's going to happen. I think Imanaga is going to be out 5 to 6 weeks, right? What that does is uh, that opens up about 5 or 6 slots that we need another pitcher. The next one, because of the Imanaga just getting hurt 2 games ago, the next rotation we've got today we've got Colin Ray against San Francisco. May 7th is Ben Brown against San Francisco. Then they have a day off, and they have Jameson Taillon on the 9th against the Mets. And Saturday the 10th against the New York Mets is the next slot that Imanaga would have been scheduled to pitch. Here's what I think the Cubs do. Here's who I would rather, and here's what I would rather happen. Chris Flexen has starting experience, so I feel that in the bullpen, the Cubs bullpen so far, as long as the San Francisco series does not go poorly, the next couple games, Chris Flexen has the experience to start. So just like Colin Ray got the opportunity when Justin Steele went out, I think Chris Flexen starts the 10th. And if he's got to go, we hope for 4 to 5 innings from him, and we make it a bullpen game the rest of the way. And then that gives Horton another opportunity to have a couple innings start down in Iowa for 1 more week. And then Cade Horton gets pulled up against the Chicago White Sox on the 16th. Because then that once Flexen starts, that resets our rotation. Everybody gets another start. The Matthew Boyd, Colin Ray, Jameson Taillon, and Ben Brown. And then the next start for Horton would be against the Chicago White Sox on the 16th. And I think he gets 5 starts and 5 opportunities to see what the Cubs want to do with him the rest of the year, whether it be continue to starting role, fill in for maybe a future injury, be in there for a 6-man rotation, just go to the bullpen and limit his arms until maybe towards the end of the year when we may need another starter, and keep him fresh. But that gives him That would give him the Chicago White Sox on the 16th, away at Miami on the 21st, home against Colorado on the 28th, at Washington June 4th, and at Philadelphia June 9th. That gives him 5 starts. And then I would be projecting Imanaga to come back at home against Pittsburgh on June 14th. Then Imanaga would be out 5 to 6 weeks at that point, in preparation to heal and kind of be ready to get back on the mound and test and have already tested that hamstring out. So that's my prediction. Um, you know, uh, I do feel Matt Shaw is going to be. That's who I would rather. I'd rather the Cubs bring up Cade Horton than Matt Shaw sooner than later. Cade, we've got the ability and depth to get him in, and with Imanaga coming back, and we're bringing in, maybe the Cubs bring in another spot starter or another relief through a trade or acquisition, somebody cheap, somebody to temporary spot, just like they did with Hollowell. He came in, pitched 2 innings, fantastic. That's just to help extend the pitching. Hollowell may stay up there, but I think they're going to replace him with someone like Horton that can provide more than 2 innings every couple games. So Matt Shaw continues down in AAA and develops. Cade Horton comes up before the 16th against the Chicago White Sox and makes his major league debut. Gets an opportunity to pitch the next 4 games after that before Imanaga comes back, and then that's an opportunity for the Cubs to either bring Cade Horton back down or let him stick around. If he's doing well, man, if he's putting up the numbers he is in Iowa, they're not gonna send him back down. At minimum, he becomes either a sixth reliever where he's getting those few innings and make it a bullpen game, or they move him to the bullpen, and get him some innings and more exposure before towards the end of the year. We might need to be an arm on the mound starting when we start playing in October. But injuries happen, fatigue happens. Cubs' goal is to keep winning, but they got to keep these arms as fresh and healthy as possible. And to that fact too about Imanaga, I don't think the injury, we don't want anybody ever injured, but the break, the 5 or 6 week break he's going to have may not be a bad thing, because you're talking about that many more weeks, 5 more games not on his arm and body. And expectation is we're winning this division, and the expectation is we're playing in October when games matter. We need Imanaga on the mound to help, lead us to some more W's in October. But so Matt Shaw's going to develop more. Cade Horton's going to come up soon. You're going to see him, let's see, the 16th. So in 10 days, that's my prediction. Cade Horton will be up pitching against the Chicago White Sox at home, and hopefully part of a Cubs sweeping the Sox. How fantastic would that be? Anyway, Cubs Ivy, Brad Savage. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Who would you rather? Go Cubs, go, fly that W.